Hello, everyone, and welcome to our final panel. It is great to see so many of you here to have waited for us. Sorry for the run. We weren't really expecting the whole stage situation, but I think we handled it well. I have a great honor of conducting this debate panel on a very timely topic, and I think it is very good to have this topic at the end of the whole day of all the discussions we've had. We're going to explore these two financial paradigms that we have, where one is rooted in tradition, regulation, and stability. On the other hand, the other is driven by innovation, decentralization, and disruption. The 6 distinguished speakers that Hiam already mentioned are as following. Next to me is Mr. Linardo Martinčević. He's an advisor in the governor's office at the Croatian National Bank, where he chairs a fintech working group and CNB Innovation Hub, while also representing CNB in the Eurosystem's Digital Euro project. Diana Majic comes from Monri Payments, where she is the product manager, leveraging her extensive experience in financial services to develop innovative payment solutions. Finally, on the traditional finance side is Teja Ćurković-Fabijanić, compliance director at Aircash, specializing in payments, regulatory compliance, ensuring alignment with evolving EU regulation. On the DeFi side, we have coming from Macedonia, Bojan Peček, who is part of Liquidity, a leading DeFi project focusing on building permissionless systems and improving consumer applications in the crypto space. We have Tanja Bivić-Plankar coming from Slovenia. She's the president of Blockchain Alliance Europe and a passionate blockchain advocate with numerous years of experience in both media and communications. And finally, from Poland, we have Anne-Grace Kleczewski.
Not Poland.
Sorry, did I say Poland? I'm sorry.
Switzerland.
Switzerland, excuse me. However, the Slavic name is the thing that we really discussed how to pronounce the surname Kleczewski, which is familiar to us. She's a lawyer specializing in financial regulations and the economic workings of DeFi protocols, committed to financial empowerment and inclusion. Well, what is following right now is that we're going to have 3 theses that we're going to debate. I'm not going to give you too much detail. I will hope to be able to open the first thesis. Yes, there it is. This is the first thesis. So DeFi is disrupting TradFi. Regarding the background, for those who are not familiar, this would be about DeFi platforms leveraging blockchain technology to provide financial services without intermediaries, potentially lowering costs and increasing access. This challenges established financial institutions to adapt or risk becoming obsolete, which is why our first speaker is coming from a traditional financial institution. Mr. Linardo, you have 2 minutes to speak about this thesis from the TradFi side.
Well, maybe not to start from the regulatory standpoint, but maybe to start from the market point side, because I'm also a consumer. Because when you take a look at the DeFi, it's really small in comparison to the traditional finance. It's like 0.0002%. So it's really a small one. Is there a potential? I would say yes, most likely there is. When I first came into the central bank and started working there was always this, we were always thinking, is the economy mathematical science, engineering science, or is it like human behavioral science? I think it is both. If you take only DeFi, it's pure mathematics. So one could say, well, this is where we should go. But what we have also learned from our side, when everything is okay, when all is good, when there is this bullish market, then everyone trusts these mathematical models, everyone trusts the system, everyone trusts the application, everyone trusts the DeFi. But when it comes to the problems, then you need a source of trust. Then you need a human, then you need someone behind the wheel to steer it. So it's kind of, let's just say, I think we live in a world where we have both of these. We need to take the best of this world, of the DeFi, of the mathematical models, which we already use a lot with high-frequency trading systems, etc. But we also always need to know that economy and money, essence of the money is a trust, and essence of the money is a trust in the institution, in a person who is behind the wheel. So,
okay, excellent. You finished before time. 10 seconds to go. Thank you. I'd like to hear right away from Boyan, from the DeFi side.
Yeah, GM everyone. So I would say the DeFi was started from the idea that we would create a better financial system, one which is inclusive, where everyone has the same rights, the same access to assets, and the right to custody your own funds, because as soon as you deposit them into a bank, it's not your money anymore, really. Unfortunately, most of DeFi is DeFi in name only. Most of DeFi is actually what I call on-chain finance. For example, Tether is not DeFi, Circle is not DeFi, and PayPal USD is definitely not DeFi. Why? For many reasons. The major among them for me is that they have so-called blacklist functions. Means those companies can freeze or even burn, basically delete your money from your self-custodial finance. So D as decentralized does not apply there. But actually I'm fine with that, as long as you declare it. If I know that this is the case, then I can make an informed decision and say, okay, I'm fine with depositing 10% of my money into USDT, but not 50% as I originally intended. So I actually think that TradFi is winning, though of course there are apps which are true in their DeFi ethos. You can still find them, and thankfully Mika, as mentioned by Vlaho, exempts DeFi applications. So this niche, as mentioned by my colleague, will continue on thriving and existing and developing. And to finish it off, there is a nice saying which goes like, decentralization does not matter until it does.
Thank you for this side. So we're going to go back to the traditional finance after all these new things we heard. The next one we have is Tea Ćurković-Fabijanić. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, so from the perspective of fintech and e-money institutions such as Aircash, it's basically financial institution operating within the traditional finances, the centralized finances, but still innovating and embracing new technologies, being much more keen to adopt it and go into some hybrid models. So when it comes to DeFi fundamentally disrupting TradFi, I would agree with disrupting, but for the sake of the argument, would challenge fundamentally. So I would say that decentralized finances technology found its way into certain services and markets, especially lending, trading, and that part. But when it comes to payments, average mass user for retail payments still turns to TradFi, and something that user knows. So traditional finances are not, when you say TradFi, what most people think of is good old brick and mortar banks, big insurance companies, asset managers, stock markets, but e-money is also TradFi, but it's fully technological. It brings you finances on a pound, real time, 24/7, cross-border, low fees from the perspective of user. So I wouldn't say that at any point it's DeFi or TradFi, but it's actually from the standpoint of user meeting their needs. Decentralized finances and their services have a certain niche of users that want to use it and see the benefit in it. On the other hand, when it comes to everyday usage, most of people still turn to traditional finances because of their stability, because of the trust they have. So when you go into trading on investments, you give some to maybe earn something. But when it comes to taking care of all your money and funds, I'm not sure how many of the mass population would be ready to put it on in decentralized finances.
Thank you, Tea. Finally, from the DeFi side, Anne Grace from Switzerland, please, can we have your 2 minutes?
Something was already mentioned before, and I'm quite happy to hear it from the TradFi side, is that there are 2 aspects. There's the technology, the economical part, and then you have more the sociological part, the ideology behind DeFi. And what is interesting is that AI is also disrupting, but everyone is like keen to adopt it and to think about it and like use it. No one is scared of using ChatGPT. We are scared of using DeFi. But maybe it's mostly because of the ideological side behind it. We want something that is permissionless, where everyone can vote. We want to have a different ethos behind finance. And this is scary. It's not for everyone. And these are things that people say they care about. I want my privacy. I want no one to control what I'm doing. But we've seen it with data privacy and the GDPR. People were super happy about it, but who actually uses their right, who actually is not clicking on the small allow to share the data when they want to download something. And I think in DeFi we need to split both sides. The ethos allowed us to develop tools that are super interesting. They helped in innovation. We had great ideas because we had this ethos to start with. But maybe let's try to use these tools without fully complying with the ethos and at least keep a reasonable amount of it. It kind of reminded me actually of the French Revolution. A lot of people in DeFi are really about big ideas and pushing for something. They want to revolutionize finance, like in the French Revolution. But we've seen that going too far, at some point you maybe step back and opt for something that's more reasonable. So being a full DeFi degen, really believing in the beauty of having something that's fully permissionless, fully decentralized is great, but it's not for everyone. So maybe we need to also settle to accept that DeFi provided great tools that could also be used by people who just accept it at 75% or even 50%, but not less.
Thank you very much. Right on time. We've finished with our 4 statements for this thesis, and now we're going to have a short cross-examination. This is going to be Leonardo. You have the floor to ask and Grace a question, and you have 2 minutes.
2 minutes for question.
No, 2 minutes. She has 2 minutes. Excuse me.
That would be a long question.
A long question.
You mentioned, well, very good example. You mentioned French Revolution. So everyone's there. Everyone yells, everyone makes noise, but there's no one responsible, right? And who is responsible for what is going on? Who is going to take the responsibility in the end? So I think this is the problem, maybe, what we are trying to solve. How would you solve that problem? Because what I was taught, I have a legal background, there is no legal system without a liable legal entity. How would you solve this problem in this setup?
So first of all, not everyone was yelling in the French Revolution, just a small portion of the population. Same here. It's about everything, the ecosystem. So DeFi is providing infrastructures. And if the infrastructure is there, it's like the highway. Ultimately, someone will be responsible, but depending on what happens. So let's say the interface, if it provides additional things, could say, you know you're using it at your own risk, but here is an insurance you can take on top, and this kind of things. I mean, the amount of liability disclaimers in the ecosystem beyond DeFi, beyond finance, everywhere is great. Like, you see them everywhere. You end up on a website, no one is responsible for the website. Here is some information. This is only for information purposes. I am not responsible for whatever you do with it. Same here. It's like a playground where you say anyone can play, but at your own risk, as long as it's clear. But then you have additional actors in the ecosystem who could endorse a small part of responsibility and say, okay, I have recommended this to you, yes, I'll be responsible. On top of that, I am insured in my profession, or I have aggregated your funds and sent them there. Maybe I'm responsible on how I send these funds. But we still need to accept that it's just like AI. Like when a financial advisor or an asset manager uses AI, they take on some responsibility because they decided to use it, but not full on top.
Thank you for being on time. The second cross-examination we have on this topic is Boyan. You will ask Thea a question regarding her statement earlier.
Exactly. I wanted to ask you about crypto payments. So lately, self-custodial crypto cards are getting very popular. Basically, you can top up your funds and then spend them with a card. But basically, we are just funneling more money into Visa and MasterCard, not the other way around. So why is it so difficult to create native payment rails, crypto-native payment rails, not use the old technology, POS technology, so to say?
Well, from the TradFi perspective, I would say infrastructure and trust. So when you're talking about cards and crypto payments, via cards, in the end you still have to rely on certain traditional services, and you need to rely on the card schemes for that. And they act as a trust provider between the issuer and the acquirer, the user and the merchant. That's one thing. Second thing, infrastructure and interoperability. So when crypto payments would be able to achieve that, then maybe can fight in the retail payments of crypto payments without necessarily relying, at least in one part of the process, on the traditional finances.
In case anybody from the traditional FI has anything else to add, we have another 35 seconds.
I was just wanting to comment on what you have mentioned, Brian, earlier. What are you depositing with the DeFi in comparison to what are you depositing with the traditional finance? It's always the same. It's always your deposit, always the trust. But in the first instance, you trust the algorithm, right? And in the second, you trust the institution and the processes that stand behind it and the regulation. So it's kind of always similar, right? Maybe?
Easy question for 8 seconds to answer.
Very broadly, yes, I agree, but it comes down to having minimal trust versus having more trust into institutions, at least from my perspective. So it's a personal decision choice in the end, in my opinion.
We're going to have more time. We're moving on to the second thesis. Just a second. This is very tech-savvy of me. I don't come from this space usually. Okay, so right now it's not working. There it is. This is the second thesis. We hope maybe some new things are going to pop up where we do hope to start bridging these differences we just heard more about. As you can see, this is the second thesis. The background is obviously that financial literacy would in that case be key for users to navigate modern finance, fostering understanding between both systems and encouraging cooperation. The speakers on this topic are Bojan, again Thea, we have Diana from Monri, and we have Tanja Bivic-Plankar. Bojan, I'm asking you to start. We can start with the time.
Last year, I read an interesting study by the EU, which was checking on the investment knowledge of its citizens. And it turns out, so it was including TradFi assets and crypto assets. Turns out that Croatia, Slovenia, Bulgaria are topping the crypto experience list, where about 20% of the people had crypto experience, but they were in the bottom when it comes to stocks and to bonds, so to TradFi. So in my opinion, this is a great showcase that crypto apps are crucial for the financial education of the younger generation. I think that I just lost my train of thought.
Okay, it's going to come back.
It's going to come back.
My grandfather used to say, think of something similar, even though it doesn't really help. But
yes. So I think we can agree that financial education or literacy is not taught well or not taught at all in the school system. Why? I guess, or I would wager that financially literate person is more independent of the state, and this is not something that the state would want, though that's a bit of a cynical comment, because such a person can then also change jurisdictions, decide where he wants to live, where he wants to pay taxes, etc., etc. And as I said, this is not in the interest of the state. Long story short, what I like about crypto in the sense of education is that because it gives people everywhere the access to funds and the ability to hold, be it stablecoins, be it Bitcoin, they have then the urge to learn about those assets, what they mean, what is money, what is inflation, what are assets and what are liabilities, and kind of educate themselves on this crucial topic.
Thank you, Bojan. I would like to hear from Diana from Monri. You have 2 minutes to hear from the TradFi.
Thank you. Yes, I believe education is very important. Okay. Education is very important on this topic. We know that TradFi, we talked about trust, that is very important because people know how to make payments, how to do investments, and what are payments processors and who do they need to call if there's fraud on their card, etc. I think they need to know more about DeFi to be involved more. So this is very important to involve in both systems. Education and institutions will have to make better solutions for clients if we have more educated people.
Excellent. Tanya, I saw you nodding. While Bojan was speaking, also Bojan mentioned Slovenia, so I would love to hear, I hope it's part of your statement that we're about to start with now, so if we can start the clock again at 2 minutes. And Tanya, the floor is yours.
Okay, I would like to add some numbers to this discussion. Eurobarometer for EU said that the financial literacy in Europe is 18% of the population have the high level of financial literacy, 65 mediocre, and 18% very low. I hope this adds up. Mm-hmm. So what we have an issue here that the general knowledge about finance is not great. And yes, I agree with Bojan that here we have an opportunity to learn more, and for younger generations, of course, the apps are very important. And what else I think is very important is like initiatives. Like here we have Alex in Blockchains that organized today this very fine conference with great topics. And we have also Ubik here, of course, in Slovenia we have us. And what is our role? Our role is, because we know who the professionals are here in this space, we can pinpoint the knowledge. We can be the ones that see that the right information gets to the public, and that it does not happen, as it happened in Slovenia, that the OneCon promoter was part of the program on the national television. And one thing is that we are the providers of the knowledge, and the second thing is that we are also the ones that have to take a stance sometimes.
Excellent. I would now like to hear from Thea. You also have an interesting perspective being part of a certain organization as well. So to see how other initiatives also help in this bridging of the gap that is evident. So the timer, please.
Again, I'm going to go from the perspective of user and from the perspective of the other participants in the financial market. So for the user, in order for them to learn and to be interested in learning, services need to be accessible. They need to be everywhere. Then users need to have a chance to use something, to be interested in something, and to want to learn more. And then it comes to the other participants and associations like Alice in Blockchains, like EWPN. Then it's our job or mission to provide that knowledge, either to the services that we provide, to companies, new products, new markets, reach to the population, and give them information in a way they can understand it. Not just all of us here are not financially literate, we are professionals. We know, but users and general population needs to know. And once that level of financial literacy and knowledge increases, that will be also a good turning point for DeFi services to maybe be accepted into more massively.
So we have a consensus that the financial literacy, regardless of it being TradFi or DeFi, is problematic. I would, before we have any conclusions, Thea, I'm going to give you the floor to ask Tanya from DeFi a question. So go.
Okay, so continuing on this, when we're thinking about average users, general population, so knowledge of DeFi and decentralized finances and crypto is not that high. So what would be your idea or strategy how to change that?
One thing is that what you already mentioned, it the language has to be appropriate to reach the general public. And the other thing that was also mentioned today is that maybe we are still lacking that use case that AI, provided. Something that was really easy to understand and something that everybody could use. Yes, we are slowly but surely getting there, I believe, but when you have the user experience, it is easier to teach something than just in theory. And yes, maybe start with the basics and maybe also start with the warnings that can happen in this ecosystem. Just spoke with somebody about the scams that are happening in banking and also in the DeFi. So maybe here is the beginning for that.
Well, I hope you guys can, after this or at the networking or in the future, connect and try to find at least the educational platforms that will be useful for, it's not even both sides, it's our whole societies. Who is next for the cross-examination? Diana, you have the floor to ask Bojan after whatever you have to comment on his statement.
Yeah, okay. As we talked about education and specific knowledge about DeFi, can you tell me what do you think is the best way to educate masses, more population about DeFi?
I think, first and foremost, the person needs to be interested in what DeFi is or in what crypto is. I think that early Bitcoiners especially were very good at explaining the basics topics which I mentioned earlier. So what is money? Why is self-custody important? Why inflation happens, etc., etc. Because then you kind of have points of reference as to why DeFi might be better or Bitcoin might be better than holding your funds in a bank, where they are inflated away and you are exposed to a fractional system. I mean, I don't think that it's DeFi's role to educate the masses, but it is our role to educate the users which come willingly to us in the right way, in a transparent way, and to be open about the risks and the benefits that DeFi offers at the end of the day. We don't have the platform to even reach masses. Now, if Revolut or N26 would be serious about crypto or about DeFi, they could do something about that. But we, on our own, we are a niche product, and those who fall into our rabbit hole are well served, in my opinion. Who is not, those people we cannot reach.
I would just like to add, we're finishing with this thesis now, moving on to the third one. One thing I didn't say, that there is a chance for the audience also to ask questions. I will, yes, Hiam will give me the tablet at some point. So please do, we're gonna go with the questions from the audience at the end of the third thesis. 5 minutes, we're gonna have time, so we're gonna take a question or two. To continue, I just wanted to add, Bojan, maybe it's a good segue also into the final thesis, is also to ask you, maybe be a bit of a devil's advocate. How do you expect crypto or DeFi to have such a future if it's only people who are interested in it that are entering it? But maybe we leave this for the discussion and maybe also let you give a short answer if you have before we continue.
It's all about platforms, having the platform to show our stance and to be supported by the media and to be supported by, I don't know, just people who have the reach. This is not happening or not happening to a sufficient degree yet. Why? We can speculate about it, but it's a fact that it's not happening.
Well, we're about to continue, so I'm going to click, hopefully successfully this time. Not yet. However, the third thesis is as following: a hybrid financial future is inevitable. The background of this is that a hybrid model could combine the stability of traditional finance and DeFi's innovation, creating a more resilient and, at the same time, flexible financial system. Our speakers will be Leonardo and Grace, Diana and Tanya. I will actually ask Anne Grace to start this time. So, Anne Grace, you have your 2 minutes.
That's great, because I actually wanted to add something on education to transition to this. Because you mentioned you to be interested in the topic of DeFi, but often we start getting interested in DeFi when we feel affected by how TradFi operates. I couldn't get a loan for my company. I couldn't send through a payment because I am in a restricted jurisdiction. And then you look at alternatives. And the convergence is also about trust. I don't trust the financial intermediary anymore because I feel that they are not acting in my best interest or they are not complying with regulations. And then you turn to DeFi. And DeFi tells you, you can trust me because the infrastructure itself is built in a manner where you don't need to trust anyone. You just read the code and you trust it. So the convergence could also be a mixture of TradFi, teaching DeFi, what are the things that people care about, where trust really needs to be set by the technical solutions, and then also TradFi to a certain extent accepting that their clients could rely on DeFi infrastructures that just simply allow them to comply with what they're supposed to do with regulations anyways. I mentioned in my presentation earlier, for example, market manipulation. I, as the operator of a trading venue, am supposed to make sure that there is no market manipulation. But if a DeFi infrastructure is built in a manner where market manipulation is prevented, cannot happen anyways, well, why wouldn't I, as a TradFi operator, use that? Let's imagine tokenizing shares and trading them on a venue where no one can just operate against the rules. Then who cares whether it's DeFi, TradFi, CeFi, or whatever else we call it? The infrastructure is there, is great, and we have something hybrid because maybe there's still an operator adding some additional services on top in a centralized manner, while the infrastructure is DeFi, because no one can tamper with it. So this is how I see the future and the convergence, accepting best of both worlds.
Okay, so Leonardo, we actually have a question now before your statement. Is TradFi even willing to give this knowledge that Anne Grace is proposing, and then you can obviously give your own comments on her speech?
Yeah, of course, it is. Because what we see usually in DeFi, this is already, we saw that already in the traditional finance. Sometimes you could only use the analogy to see the same things like the payments, like the hypothecation, like whatever, taking loans or whatever. So it is used from the traditional finance. How I see the hybrid architecture, it will exist, and these two systems will exist in the future. That's inevitable. We already see this in, let's say, in payment systems where you have some kind of a bots or algorithms helping us for the instant payments, or in the capital markets where we have high-frequency traders, which are also bots. So we have some sort of a DeFi on top of traditional finance. But what I also think, as I said, I think in the center, there has to be some sort of a traditional finance. You will need to have some sort of an institution, some source of trust, and then to build the system around it. What is also very important here is to achieve interoperability. Interoperability is key, because if you're going to have a lot of different systems just scattered around and not being able to talk to each other, then you just don't have the one system. This is sometimes what is also happening with the big techs. If they take the field and they just put you in your walled gardens, they don't allow you to transfer, let's say, money or your assets from one garden to the other. This is what we see. This is why we need a huge center, which could be just very rudimentary, just the basic, and then to build the many other small helping systems around it. One for payments, one for helping you to get a loan, and some other, credit scoring or whatever. This is the idea. This is how I see the future of the finance. And this is also what we are. I have 15 seconds left. This is how the digital euro will also be designed. Just the sensor with just the rudimentary functions, and everything around it will be left to the private sector to innovate. Whether it's DeFi or TradFi, that's their own choice.
Okay, Tanya, how do you feel about about this proposal of having one center, coming from the DeFi space?
Well, we have DeFi because we saw that center sometimes does not work as it should. And we decided that place the trust into the algorithms, as also Anne said, and so on. But totally agree that there will be a convergence, and I agree. I think that also some of you said before that the traditional finance will have the benefits from the DeFi in security, also resilience, and so on. But what I see now is, of course, that we have a possibility here in DeFi to be the ones that hold our own funds. And that is possible. We heard also before in the previous talk about wallets and so on. This is a feature that probably, this is a question for the TradFi side that you're not very keen about, I think.
Well, here. Okay. Can I give them the floor now?
Yes,
Back to
please.
them. Okay, so we have another half a minute if anybody else wants to give a comment. If not, Diana, it's your turn to either answer this question or give us more.
Okay, about hybrid, I think we are already living it. I can give you an example from our data in Monterey. We are already accepting cryptocurrencies, additional payment methods. And in this year, there is 50% higher volume in transaction in crypto more than last year. So I think this is the future is already here.
The future is already here. Leonardo, what do you think?
Yeah, the future is here, yeah. As I said also, yeah, you already have this architecture where you have, let's say, additional systems, additional applications, which are really very automated, that help us do our regular stuff, the regular thing. But in the end, the main tree is still, let's say, centralized. There is someone behind the wheel, there is a human in charge, or let's say institution in charge. Yes, this already, yeah. Totally.
So it's more about methods then?
Yeah.
It's different methods then?
Yeah, it's different methods. And as I said, who are you going to... There is also one point, maybe not mentioned very good here. I saw, well, it's an old video from Steve Jobs. And he said about technology. Someone asked him from the audience about the technology. And then he said, you never built a product or the service from the technology. You always have to start from the user. What is he going to use and how is he going to use it? And then take the technology to serve the purpose. So this is very similar. If you find a very good use case, then just go after it. And this is what usually happens. So I think this user experience is also very, very important. This is what we see, that people are willing to sacrifice all their privacy and security that DeFi offers, and everyone's, like full mouth of privacy and security. But when it comes to user experience, to the convenience, okay, just take it on. Okay, I don't care about it. So in the end, the user is the one who are we going to ask.
Okay. Before we continue, Hiam, can I please have the tablet with the question? I do hope somebody asked a question, guys, and I asked everybody to ask questions. A lot of questions. Do we have enough time? Thank you. What's the time? Okay. Excellent. Wow, guys, this is nice. Okay. Would you agree TradFi is a forced financial system in terms of it being forced to use without an alternative, whereas DeFi would be a free-to-choose and a free-to-build system? I'd like a volunteer from DeFi and a volunteer from TradFi. Don't feel obligated. Thank you. No pressure.
Okay, so you're both looking at me.
Yeah.
Fine.
For being so brave, yeah.
What did it say?
So
do we see as a force that traditional financial system is something that user is forced to
Yes,
use?
because there is no alternative, whereas now we do have some kind of an alternative which gives us some sort of freedom to build it as, if I understood well, that allows us to build it as supposed to.
Okay, but the question is forced to use for what purposes? So there is a whole aspect behind the financial system that maybe at some points we don't think about. And when we say trust, it's not just trust about that funds will reach from point A to the point B. It's one thing that is very popular and key point in regulations, especially in PSD 1, 2, 3. Let's talk about fraud. So, like I said before, when you use decentralized finances for certain services, especially trading, you put some with hope that maybe you will earn more, or you take loans so you don't have anything in the beginning except the collateral, and then you receive something. With some other services, imagine you have a lot of money and you need to put that money somewhere. When you have DeFi, it's only secure as in the means of how much the code is secure. And if something goes wrong, there's no liability behind it. There's nobody behind it. In TradFi, okay, you might have that central regulator somewhere behind or participant that somebody said sometimes doesn't work, or you have an impression that it doesn't work in your best interest. But are you ready to give up all the security that you have and mechanisms that actually are there for you just because certain cases where you're under impression that fees are too high or you do not have enough privacy or whatever? So in the end, I wouldn't say that you are forced to use TradFi. You can try to work and exist on other types of services, and definitely DeFi offers some things that most of us could have use of.
Okay, maybe somebody has a yes, and Grace, there you go.
Let's say it was the question was phrased as forced to use. It depends on the perspective. I receive a salary in Europe. I am forced to interact with a bank to receive that salary. I live in a country where no one wants to open a bank account for me. I am forced to interact with crypto because otherwise there's no way someone can pay me. So it really forced to use. It really depends where you are. You are forced to use it in most developed countries because this is the usual manner. And if you ask someone to pay you on your wallet, now it will work. But a couple of years ago, people would just look at you like, what do you mean? How do I pay a lawyer, for example, if I don't have a bank account because there's no way I can transfer funds? But in other countries, it will be the opposite. I cannot send funds or only transfer cash because no one is offering me the infrastructure. I cannot invest. I cannot have a savings account, or my savings account is me stacking cash under a pillow. So forced, for some people, DeFi is forced, although maybe they would like to have something else just because it's the only alternative. And something you said is very good, like the security. But there's also this idea of you are protecting someone, although maybe they don't want to. It's like with kids. They want to do something and the parents will tell them, it's not of your age, you're too small for it. The same with investment products. You're not supposed to invest in that. It's too complex for you. In DeFi, we take this away. You want to invest in something super risky? Do it, whatever you want to. You want to have a collective investment fund on chain? Well, you're going to onboard anyone you want as long as it's DeFi currently and fully DeFi. So it's a way of, it's forced and it's open at the same time, depending on where you are and in which situation you are, actually.
Okay, so I had both Leonardo wanting to say something and Tanya, but please hold your thoughts because I would at least like to share one of these 700 questions we got. Just a second, I had one that was good. Yes, for DeFi side, so I'd like you guys to think about it. For DeFi, did we do too little for things that were from the beginning harbingers of crypto in terms of privacy, anonymity, and we sacrificed them for profit? So think about that, and Tanya, please give us whatever you wanted to say before.
Actually, Anne Grace really summoned it very nicely. I will just add one sentence. Here in the European Union, we are very lucky that we can actually choose whether we want to be in TradFi or in DeFi. Yes, it depends on situation and on lifestyle.
Okay.
One small comment about protection of TradFi. You only protect it up to 100,000 euros, right? If something happens, you can forget the rest.
That depends. That depends. That's when you're talking about banks.
I like this.
From the e-money perspective, everything is protected. So the whole amount of money is safeguarded in full.
100 million.
100 million, if we would accept it, we would safeguard it. 100 million.
Okay, so I hope, did we clarify this? Okay, Leonardo, you had a comment, so I just wanted to give you back, unless you forgot by now.
No. It's more like a philosophical comment,
Okay.
freedom. Someone mentioned freedom. What is freedom? You are free to do whatever you want. In finance, what is the ultimate source of freedom? In a sense, I think maybe people are aiming at the anonymity, right? Something like that, secure, anonymous. But there already is ultimate source of freedom in the finance, which is cash, right? It's much better than the DeFi. So because you're able to use it wherever you want, and still, it's a public money, it's a public institution standing behind it. We all like to have cash, we all like to feel it. And
Doesn't provide yield.
And alongside with the cash, there's also plenty of possibilities. So there is a freedom, in a sense, you are free to choose which option are you going to use.
Excellent. Tanya, you had, okay, Tanya, be quick. Tanya, Bojan, and Grace.
It's
Please.
actually the last sentence. Yes, the freedom is an ability to choose. And the good thing is that we can still choose here.
Okay, and Grace?
It's also freedom, like 100% freedom. I mean, our freedom stops where someone else's freedom begins. And it's like this everywhere. It makes me think about social media. Everyone wanted to be able to post if they want to anonymously, whatever they want, whatever type of content. And then we stepped at saying, well, actually, it's not nice to be bullied online and to see terrorist content everywhere. It's the same here. Like, it's great to have anonymity, but you don't want to have your funds mixed with the funds of like anti-money, like laundered money from like whatever activity. So there's a limit there, and it's not sacrificing, it's just being reasonable. Like nothing is 100%.
Okay. Bojan, you had something to say?
No, I'd like to answer the question about did DeFi sell out?
Yes, and it was, just to be exact, just a second.
Yes, please.
Wait. Did we do too little for things that were from the beginning harbingers of crypto, privacy, anonymity, etc., and sacrifice them for profit?
The short answer, yes. The long answer, it's very difficult to do things properly, and human nature just tends to go with quick results and a good ROI, so that's just human nature, I would say. And good point on people not caring about decentralization. We saw that in 2023 with the whole Silicon Valley Bank FUD, as we say in DeFi, when for 2 months everyone was decentralized stablecoins, and then we're back to square one, back to basics, back to we don't care.
We had a huge, in times of crisis, we had a huge ATM cash withdrawals. That was the crisis. We saw it. No one went for the DeFi protocols to go into the stable coins, into Bitcoin or whatever. It doesn't matter. Maybe one day they will, but today, the reality is that they go for cash. They go for the ATMs. They want the cash in their wallet. Then they trust.
Well, people who are not exposed to crypto do that.
Yeah.
But then, for example, like in Greece, they could only withdraw 150 per day, which is not cool.
Well, I will be the devil's advocate again with you and ask you, why are people then not exposed? Why to this side more?
To DeFi side, because it's convenient to go to the other route, to not think about custody in your own funds, to chase higher yields via US treasuries or via RWAs. As I said, it's just human nature.
Okay, now we need to be speeding things up towards the end. So I will also, once again, give the floor to each one of you. Less than a minute, please, because I'd like to be right on time. Less than a minute conclusion after this conversation. Whoever wants to go first. Diana, maybe you want to go first,
Okay.
or Thea, or...
Yes, I can. So for me, conclusion is definitely that we are already trying to put DeFi into this traditional system, and that is good for all of us because we are building better solutions for our clients. That's all.
Thank you. One person from DeFi, please.
Okay, I'll go. I believe that the key is the education, so that we have a responsible consumer and we don't look for responsibility in other aspects of the system. So education is the key. When we live that level of financial literacy, maybe more people will also go to the DeFi side and so on. And because they will be curious and knowledgeable.
Okay, thank you. Thea, maybe you want to go?
Okay. Well, definitely. Again, convergence of two worlds, taking the best from both of them, and the key would be, aside from the education, is accepting the technology and innovation and not stopping it due to some legacy. So, in whichever way it goes, traditional or decentralized, regardless, but users will benefit from technology and diversity on the market. So maybe diversity is...
Good thing it's one of the themes of this conference also. Okay, maybe Anne-Grace, you want to go? Or Boyan, I don't know. I'm not going to take anything from you.
I can go. I mean, DeFi came with a bang. The first DAO came with like this big movement, big innovation. It's so new, it's so different. And it's the embodiment of some of the ideals like freedom, privacy, in the purest form. This is how it came in. Maybe now it's time to keep some actors that really embody this ideal and think about how can we bring it to the masses and contaminate them with this ideal. Not everyone is open to it, but how can we onboard them and bring them to the dark side and make them realize that they need to care about it? Like, what are the cookies we need to offer to them? And maybe we will sacrifice some things. Maybe it will not be perfect, but it starts that way. Maybe ultimately they will just join a higher level. So let's think about DeFi as a quest to onboard people into a more responsible, reasonable, privacy, respecting privacy and better financial system, basically.
Excellent. Leonardo?
Well, we already live in a hybrid architecture, I would say. I would like to see many, many more DeFi protocols on top of our job, which is like, as our name suggests, it's a central bank. So please leave our central banks in the center of the financial system, at least, well, for the reason that we don't lose our jobs.
And Boyan, can we have no pressure final remarks?
I think a good intermediary step at least is better UX and chain abstraction so that people can just have a nice shiny app and they see 5% on your euro. They top it up with a card, they click 5%, and in the background it goes to Aave or Maker or whatever, and you're a happy camper not really knowing what's happening. And DeFi onboards new people, they have great user experience, good yield, while DeFi, as I said, gets new customers.
Well, with this, we're closing this panel. I would like to thank, first of all, the audience for your diverse questions. Both sides, TradFi side, Leonardo, Diana, and Thea. On the other side, DeFi, Boyan, Tanya, and Anne-Grace. Thank you for your valuable insights, and thank you for allowing yourselves also to get into the debate and into discussion. This is what we hoped for, and this is what we got in the end. We hope you liked it, and I would like to ask for an applause from you guys and to finish this panel. Thank you. Emma.